Alpha, I see you're studying again. Wonderful. I've been meaning to ask you something.
Yes, Father?
Tell me, how much do you know about our gods?
I know that there are two that reside in our world, although I am not familiar to those that reside beyond it. It is speculated that some of them are less inclined to cooperate with us.
Good. So you are following. Wonderful. Tell me about one of them.
The first one would be Astali, the goddess of creation and metal. She is the one responsible for creation of your and my species.
Now, I created you.
Yes, but she created you, and by extension, we are made by her.
In that case, how about we listen about something similar? Something about manifestation of gods in one's mind, rather than creation of those by itself.
I would be curious to listen to.
Good, let's do so. All sapient species have an avatar, not a god or a creator, but something else, a being born not of divine power, but a collective soul, a manifestation shaped by shared experience, identity, and understanding. An avatar is a guardian of sorts, formed by the unconscious mind of an entire species, standing with them in moments of strife, suffering, and triumph. They are always known to their people and are often the first trace detected of any newly discovered species, their power radiating out into the infinite like a beacon. Except for one: humanity. Humanity was the first species to be ever discovered on their own, not by the power of their avatar. Even more strangely, no avatar had ever been detected for the primitive humans. Countless attempts had been made, but none had anything to show for it. To the supreme hierophant of the Winterrex Dominion, this was not mystery to solve, but a weakness to exploit. Warships hung in symmetrical formation, ready to warp to the Sol system. Within the flagship, Supreme Commander Tovak stared at the hologram of Earth. He didn't see a blue marble suspended in the void, no. He only saw a people no better than mere beasts, lacking the sapience to form even the faintest whisper of an avatar. Tovak turned to speak to his bridge crew, but froze. A human stood on the bridge. It hadn't been there a moment ago, and nothing had signaled its arrival. No transporter hum, no alarm, nothing. And yet, there it was, as if it always had been there. The figure was utterly unremarkable, neither tall nor short, neither masculine nor feminine, neither old nor young. Its clothes were bland, and its face was equally indistinct. Tovak tried to identify any singular trait, but whenever he focused on any one of the aspects of this figure, all others faded from memory. "Leave," the human said. Its voice was soft, unthreatening. It wasn't a plea, nor a command either, just a word hanging in the still air of the bridge. Tovak reacted instantly, drawing his sidearm and firing, but the human was no longer there. In the mere moment it took for Tovak to draw his sidearm, the figure had simply vanished. The figure had stood there as if it had always been there, and now it was not standing there. Now it was as if it had never stood there at all. A bolt of plasma scorched the wall. Officers turned in alarm as Tovak's grip tightened on his weapon. "Scan the bridge," he barked. "Sir?" one of the lieutenants asked, hesitant. There's nothing here." "Do it!" Tovak shouted angrily. "Scans complete, sir. No life signs other than us," another reported. Tovak growled to himself as he struggled to remember why he had fired his weapon. He struggled even to remember having the memories of what he had tried to fire at. The only thing that remained in his mind was a single word: leave. Perhaps it had been pre-battle tension, a trick of the mind. Tovak shook his head as he holstered his sidearm. "Forget it," he muttered. "It is time." He stepped towards the command dais, hand outstretched to activate the orders, except his fingers pressed through the controls. A sound behind him drew his attention, impossibly quiet, like the idea of a whisper. He turned to look, only to see the same human he had seen before, standing there again. Except something was different about it now, or maybe he was only just feeling it. The human was no more distinct. If anything, it seemed even harder to remember, but its presence pressed on the space around it. A sense of loud silence, muffled by a silent scream, a sense of a collapse of all might-have-beens into one unchangeable was. Instinctively, Tovek stepped backwards, only to notice his body was not following him. His body was standing still, collapsing with an impossible slowness as the time seemed to have all but frozen. Tovek returned his attention to the human. "What are you?" he whispered. The human tilted its head. It looked as if it had never considered that question before. "That is an interesting question. The ceasing of breath, or perhaps thought?" It paused for a few moments. "No, cessation is ending, and these things do not end. They simply change and transform." Another pause. "Then perhaps the absence of life?" "No, absence implies a void, but life leaves behind echoes. You wouldn't describe a rock as dead just because it is not alive." Tovek's breath came shallow and fast as the realization dawned on him. A being that both was and was not, a being that had never considered its own existence until prompted, a being of immense power. You're their avatar." It didn't answer, but it didn't need to. Tovek knew. It was the avatar of humanity. It was death. "What kind of people," Tovek rasped as the words did not want to be spoken, "would manifest death as their avatar?" Death looked at him curious. "I've never asked myself that." It stepped closer, not with menace, but with quiet interest. "They fear me. They accept me. They avoid speaking of me. And yet they build entire rites around me. They chase immortality while writing stories that end. They pretend I'm far away, then look for me in every shadow." It walked through Tovek towards the main window and gazed out towards the stars. No, not towards the stars, not even to any one star. Death gazed upon something that at this distance only it could see. Earth. They seek to delay their end, yet honor it all the same. They mourn and celebrate, grieve and rejoice. They understand in ways subtle and profound that to live is also to end, and still they live. Death closed its eyes and lowered its voice, speaking softer than silence, in countless voices all at once. "By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. Remember, Caesar, thou art mortal. Life is short, and shortly it will end. We bones, lying here bare, await yours." The voices unified once more as death opens its eyes. "Memento mori." Tovek was trembling. "But we looked for you. How were you hidden from us?" "You did see me. Even now I walk among my people, speculating the lives to which they cling so fiercely." Death responding before turning to face Tovek once more. "But you did not notice, for no one notices an ordinary face in the crowd. I noticed other beings like myself. Avatars, I believe you call us. But I am not like the others. I do not announce my presence. I need not shine my essence into the infinite void like a lighthouse to guide my people. They guide themselves, and when they can no longer go on, I take them into my care." Death was now looking past Tovek, who turned to see the bright light behind him. Tovek's soul sang with the truth as the light enveloped every part of it. The ascendant, avatar of the Vinterex, was coming. Reality shook at its arrival. The light folded into structure and created form from meaning, a form made of impossible angles and sacred symmetry, forged from self-image of a species that knew itself to be perfect. To look at it was to feel one's insignificance written into the fabric of the universe, and Tovek's soul was gone in an instant it arrived, drawn into the Ascendant's radiance not by choice, but by truth. He was Vinterex, and Vinterex returned to itself. Death did not move to contest the Ascendant's claim on Tovek's soul. The Ascendant turned to face it, shining with divine certainty, its radiance flooding the space around them. But Death was unaffected and undeterred. Death simply stood as the radiance was swallowed by God-shaped hole in the fabric of existence.
You have overstepped,
The Ascendant spoke, its voice ringing like a judgment echoed into reality itself.
You reached beyond your kind. One of mine has fallen by your hand.
Death barely moved. Its voice, when it came, was quiet like before, but something in it had sharpened. Not rage, but anger over a boundary crossed. He sought to reap what was mine, Death replied. He moved to claim the lives of those under my care. I do not take what belongs to you. Do not reach for what belongs to me. I will grant you the same warning I did him. The stillness around Death flared, a stillness like a shadow cast without light. Death's form had shifted ever so slightly, its eyes no longer as forgettable as the rest, replaced by darkness that made even singularity seem bright by comparison. Leave. Torvak's corpse hit the floor with a sound thud, drawing the attention of every officer on the bridge. Some rushed over to try and help before suddenly freezing in place. In an instant, every soul aboard every vessel in the fleet felt it. A whisper, a command cast from the very souls, from the Ascended.
Leave humanity be.
On Earth, on a crowded city street, a silent figure weaved through the rushing tide of faces. People hurried past, all preoccupied with the rush and chaos of their own lives, all unaware of the presence that brushed past them like a whisper. The figure smiled softly. No one saw it. No one would remember it. Yet throughout history, it had always been there. It had always been everywhere. It had always been watching as countless lives are unfolded around it. Each heartbeat, a story it would one day hold.